Welcome back to another episode of Al's Vintage Toy Trains. Hope you're having a great week. So on behalf of a subscriber, I am going to go through the differences, or at least the major differences, of Lionel's 224 engine. So Lionel first introduced the 224 in 1938, and it was cataloged in the pre-war era from 1938 to 1942. And some of the unique things to the pre-war engine version. Obviously, the tender is going to have the pre-war trucks, so that's a dead giveaway. The handrails on both the engine and the tender are always going to be nickel-plated or silver. So you'll see that the handrails are silver. If you look at the drawbars, the pre-war versions are usually extra. There's a little bit of extra length in there between the engine and the tender. Both the drawbars are quite long, and they're both silver. So that's another indicator that you would have a 224 engine with that long silver drawbar. So Lionel did make the 224 in black with a black metal tender. This one is black with a plastic tender. Both tenders were numbered 2224W. And I'm not sure of the year that they switched to plastic, but I'm thinking around 1940. This is at least a 40 or a 41, just based on the coupler type. And so the other thing is that the cab floor in the back of the engine is squared off. So this is the first iteration of the 224 or pre-war era. They also made it in gunmetal. So they made the gunmetal 224 with a gunmetal die-cast tender. They also made the gunmetal 224 with a gunmetal sheet metal 2689 tender. So that's the pre-war version. Next is the 1945 version, the center one here, and this is very similar to the pre-war. And really, there's two differences between the pre-war and the post-war 1945. Number one, you'll note that the handrails are black instead of silver. The back end is still squared off. However, there's only one drawbar, and that is with the engine. So it is a black drawbar versus the silver. And for 1945, that drawbar is kind of lengthy because there is no drawbar for a 1945 tender. And what you'll note is that's a little oval hole punched out in the frame. And that's how the drawbar is basically tethered to the tender. The drawbar drops down into that oval and locks it into place. So that is unique for a 1945 setup. And again, it's got the flat squared off cab. And this is unique in that this tender has the earliest of the wheels. It has the whirly wheels. And only the very early production of the 45 tenders had those whirly wheels and thick axles. All right, so the tender also has the black handrails to match the 45 engine. And otherwise, it is identical to the pre-war, except for what we just kind of went over. All right, so I've got an oddity here for 1946, but really the difference between a 45 and a 46 is that now the cab floor here is rounded versus being squared off here. So that's a dead giveaway that that's a 1946 engine. And now the engine itself has a drawbar, which is rather short, and the tender has a drawbar. So you can see that there. So it still sits a lot closer together when it's connected versus the big gap that you have in a pre-war. So I have a unique 46 engine in that it has the black handrails, and it also has the black cotter pins like the 45. I'm only assuming that Lionel used up those handrails from 1945 to 1946 until they depleted their stock before going to the nickel or silver. So I'm thinking that that is why the oddity is there. Lionel always tried to use up all their parts that they had. Otherwise, this should normally be silver handrails on this engine. And I don't think anybody changed it out. I picked this up from a guy that does cleanouts at a house, and it was the only set. He listed it. It was a complete set, which was 2103W. And since the set was complete, I'm assuming that the engine is also correct. It's not like I bought it from another dealer or somebody. I don't think too many people had their hands in this set. So this is a 1946 set. Again, the difference between a 45 and a 46 is the drawbars are different. Squared off cab floor versus rounded cab floor. And then going from black handrails to normally silver handrails. So my tender has the silver handrails. It does have the early trucks. So it's got the fiber trucks. And so that makes it the early trucks versus the metal plate that we would normally have right after, and that transitioned in 1946. So this just happens to have the early trucks. All right. So that's a little explanation of the differences in the 224s from 1938 to 1946 when they were cataloged by Lionel. It's possible that Lionel had some uncatalogued sets in 47 with a 224, but I'm not that well versed on that. So, well, this is Al. Hope you enjoyed, and that is the differences that I know of in the 224 engines. Have a great day, everybody.